The graveyard is the richest place on earth. I want you to sit with that statement for a moment. Let it disturb you. Let it unsettle the comfortable place you have created in your mind. The graveyard is the richest place on earth. Why? Because buried beneath the soil are dreams that were never pursued, businesses that were never started, books that were never written, songs that were never sung, cures for diseases that were never discovered, inventions that would have transformed nations lying silent in caskets, ideas that could have fed millions, changed economies, shifted the trajectory of entire generations, gone, wasted. Buried with people who had every intention of becoming something, but never developed the one quality that separates those who dream from those who deliver. Discipline, not ordinary discipline, not the kind you exercise for a week when you feel motivated, not the temporary restraint you show when someone is watching. I am talking about a discipline so deep, so rooted, so unshakable that the world looks at you and doesn't know whether to admire you or fear you. Dangerously disciplined. The problem with most people is not that they lack talent. The problem is not that they lack opportunity. The problem is not even that they lack knowledge. The problem is that they have never become dangerous to distraction. They have never become a threat to mediocrity. They have never made laziness uncomfortable in their presence. And so they live, and they dream, and they wish, and they hope, and then they die. Full of potential, empty of impact. I want to tell you something about an eagle that changed the way I understand potential and discipline. There was a farmer who found an eagle's egg and placed it in the nest of a barnyard hen. The eaglet hatched with the brood of chicks and grew up with them. All his life, the eagle did what the chickens did. He scratched in the dirt for worms and insects. He clucked and cackled. He flew only a few feet off the ground in a brief, awkward fluttering of wings, just like the chickens. Years passed. The eagle grew very old. One day, he saw a magnificent bird far above him in the cloudless sky. The bird glided in graceful majesty among the powerful wind currents, soaring with scarcely a beat of its strong golden wings. The old eagle looked up in awe. "What is that?" he asked. "That's an eagle," said his neighbor, "the chief of the birds." "Don't give it a second thought. You could never be like him." So the eagle never gave it another thought, and he died thinking he was a chicken. Now, I need you to understand something. That eagle had wings designed for the heavens. He had eyes that could see a rabbit from 2 miles away. He had talons built to grip mountain cliffs. He had a heart created to pump blood through a body made for conquest. But he lived among chickens. He ate like chickens. He thought like chickens. He accepted the limitations of chickens. And here is the tragedy. He had the equipment, but not the discipline to use it. His wings were never stretched to their capacity. His eyes never searched the horizons they were designed to scan. His potential was present, but dormant. Not because he lacked ability, but because he lacked the disciplined pursuit of what he was created to become. This is the story of millions of people walking this earth today. They have the equipment, they have the raw materials, they have the capacity for greatness, but they have surrounded themselves with chicken thinkers, chicken habits, and chicken limitations. And they will die never having soared. What I mean when I say dangerously disciplined. A person who is dangerously disciplined is someone who has made a decision, not a wish, not a preference, not a good idea, a decision. A decision is the death of alternatives. When you truly decide, you cut off every other option. The word decide comes from the Latin word decidere, which means to cut off. It is related to the words homicide, suicide, genocide. To decide means to kill off every other possibility. Most people have never decided anything in their lives. They have preferences. They have inclinations. They have things they would like to do if it's convenient, if the weather is right, if they feel like it, if nobody criticizes them, if it doesn't cost too much. But a dangerously disciplined person has killed their alternatives. They have murdered their excuses. They have executed their backup plans. When you become dangerously disciplined, you become single-minded. And a single-minded person is the most powerful force on this planet. Because while everyone else is scattered, distracted, pulled in 17 directions by 17 different desires, you are locked in, focused, unmoved, unshakable. The world does not know what to do with someone who cannot be distracted. The world has no answer for someone who refuses to quit. The world has no weapon against someone who has decided. There was a young man in ancient Greece named Demosthenes. He was born with a severe speech impediment. He stuttered, he stammered, his voice was weak, his breath was short. People laughed at him when he tried to speak in public. But Demosthenes had a vision. He wanted to become the greatest orator in the history of Greece. Everyone told him it was impossible. They said, "You can't even complete a sentence without stumbling over your own tongue. Give up. Accept your limitations. Be realistic." But Demosthenes had made a decision. He would become dangerously disciplined. He began to practice speaking with pebbles in his mouth. Imagine this. Sharp stones pressing against his tongue, cutting into his gums, forcing him to articulate each word with precision and power. He did this for hours every single day. Then he started running up mountains while reciting speeches. He would run until his lungs burned, until his legs screamed for mercy, until sweat poured down his face, and he would keep speaking. He was training his breath and disciplining his body to serve his voice. He shaved one side of his head completely bald. Why? So that he would be too embarrassed to go out in public. He locked himself away in an underground room and practiced for months at a time. He made it impossible for himself to quit. This went on for years, not days, not weeks, years. And when Demosthenes finally emerged, he stood before the people of Athens and delivered speeches so powerful that his enemies trembled. His words moved armies. His voice shaped history. Kings and generals sought his counsel. He became what every person who laughed at him said he could never become. Not because he was naturally gifted, but because he was dangerously disciplined. Discipline is not punishment. This is where many people misunderstand. They think discipline is deprivation. They think discipline is suffering. They think discipline is giving up what you love. No. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you were created to be. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. Discipline is the mother of freedom. The most free people on this earth are those who have mastered themselves. The most enslaved people on this earth are those who are controlled by their appetites, their emotions, their moods, their impulses. A person who cannot tell their body no is a slave in the worst possible way. They are imprisoned by their own flesh. They are controlled by cravings, by comfort, by convenience. But when you become dangerously disciplined, you become the master of your own house. Your body becomes your servant, not your master. Your emotions become your tools, not your tyrants. Your circumstances become your materials, not your limitations. This is freedom, true freedom, the freedom that comes from self-mastery. Most people never consider There is a relationship between discipline and destiny. Your destiny is not automatic. Let me say that again, because religious people and wishful thinkers need to hear this. Your destiny is not automatic. Having potential does not mean you will fulfill your potential. Having a purpose does not mean you will accomplish your purpose. Having a gift does not mean your gift will bless anyone. Destiny requires discipline. You can have the seed of greatness planted in your life, but if you never water it with discipline, if you never protect it with focus, if you never cultivate it with consistency, that seed will rot in the ground. I have met people who were more talented than the successful people they envy. They had more gifts, more intelligence, more creativity, but the successful person had something they did not have. Discipline. The successful person showed up when they didn't feel like it. The successful person practiced when no one was watching. The successful person said no to distractions while everyone else was saying yes. The successful person was building while everyone else was sleeping. And now the talented person works for the disciplined person. The gifted person takes orders from the focused person. The potential-filled person watches the purpose-driven person live the life they could have had. This is the tragedy of undisciplined potential. There's a story from the ancient world that has stayed with me for decades. In the city of Carthage, there was a general named Hannibal Barca. His father, Hamilcar, had been humiliated by Rome in the First Punic War. Before Hamilcar died, he made his young son, Hannibal, kneel before an altar and swear an oath of eternal hatred against Rome. Hannibal never forgot that oath. He dedicated his entire life to one purpose: the destruction of Rome. Everything he did from childhood was preparation for that mission. He studied Roman tactics. He learned their language. He analyzed their weaknesses. He trained his body and mind for warfare. When Hannibal was finally ready to attack Rome, he did something that military experts said was impossible. He took his army, including war elephants, and crossed the Alps. The Alps, those frozen, treacherous mountains that had killed countless travelers. No army had ever attempted such a crossing. It was considered suicide. But Hannibal had disciplined his army to follow him anywhere. He had trained them to endure what others could not endure. He had built in them a capacity for suffering that made the impossible possible. It took 15 days. Men froze to death. Elephants slipped off cliffs. Soldiers starved. But Hannibal kept moving forward. And when he emerged on the other side with his battered army, he did what no one believed could be done. He invaded Italy from the north and defeated Roman army after Roman army. For 16 years, he remained on Roman soil, undefeated, a constant terror to the greatest empire the world had ever known. One man with discipline accomplished what entire nations could not accomplish with comfort. Hannibal understood something that most people never grasped. He understood that discipline is the multiplier of talent. A person of average ability with extraordinary discipline will always outperform a person of extraordinary ability with average discipline. The mathematics are simple but profound. If your talent is a 10 but your discipline is a 2, your impact is 20. But if your talent is a 5 and your discipline is a 10, your impact is 50. The disciplined person of lesser talent produces more than twice the impact of the talented person of lesser discipline. This is why you see people of average intelligence running companies while geniuses work entry-level jobs. This is why you see people of modest talent building empires while prodigies struggle to pay rent. This is why you see ordinary people accomplishing extraordinary things while extraordinary people accomplish nothing at all. Talent opens the door, discipline walks through it. This is the power of dangerous discipline. It makes the impossible your address. It makes the unthinkable your neighborhood. It makes the unreachable your daily reality. Now, I must tell you something that will disturb comfortable people. Discipline requires isolation, not permanent isolation, not the isolation of loneliness, but the strategic isolation of focus. Every seed that grows must first be buried. Every butterfly must first be wrapped in a cocoon. Every champion must first separate themselves from the crowd. You cannot become dangerously disciplined while being available to everyone. You cannot develop extraordinary capacity while living an ordinary schedule. You cannot build something exceptional while surrounded by people who accept average. This does not mean you hate people. This means you love your purpose more than you love popularity. This means you value your vision more than you value the approval of those who have no vision. When you decide to become dangerously disciplined, you will lose friends. I need you to understand this. You will lose people who are only attracted to your availability, not your destiny. You will lose people who were comfortable with your mediocrity because it made them feel better about their own. But here is what you will gain. You will gain yourself. You will gain your purpose. You will gain the respect of people who matter. You will gain a legacy that outlives your lifetime. The disciplined life is not a popular life, but the disciplined life is a powerful life. And I would rather be powerful and purposeful than popular and empty. Let me give you a principle that will transform how you think about discipline. Discipline is not primarily about what you do. Discipline is primarily about who you become. Most people approach discipline as a series of actions. Wake up early, exercise, eat right, study, work hard. These are all important, but if you approach discipline only as behavior modification, you will eventually burn out. True discipline is identity transformation. When you become a disciplined person in your identity, the actions flow naturally. You don't have to force yourself to wake up early because you have become someone who values the morning hours. You don't have to motivate yourself to exercise because you have become someone who sees their body as a temple, not a trash can. You don't have to struggle to focus because you have become someone who is purpose-driven, not pleasure-driven. The disciplined person and the undisciplined person can do the same action, but the disciplined person does it with ease because it flows from who they are. This is why discipline must start in the mind before it manifests in the body. You must see yourself as a disciplined person before you will consistently act like a disciplined person. Every morning when you wake up, you must speak to yourself. You must declare who you are. You must remind yourself of your decision. You must rehearse your identity until your actions have no choice but to follow. I am disciplined. I am focused. I am dangerous to distraction. I am a threat to mediocrity. I am building a legacy. When this becomes your identity, discipline stops being a burden and becomes a joy. It stops being a sacrifice and becomes an investment. It stops being something you do and becomes someone you are. There is something else I must address. The enemy of discipline is not laziness. The enemy of discipline is rationalization. Lazy people know they are lazy. They are not a significant threat because they are obvious. But the person who rationalizes their lack of discipline is far more dangerous to themselves. Rationalization is the art of making excuses sound like wisdom. I work better under pressure is rationalization for procrastination. I need to take care of myself is rationalization for avoiding hard work. I'm just being realistic. It's rationalization for accepting mediocrity. It's not the right time. It's rationalization for fear. The undisciplined person has a rational explanation for every failure. They can explain why they didn't finish. They can justify why they quit. They can articulate with perfect logic why they never started. And they are entirely wrong. The dangerously disciplined person has learned to recognize rationalization and reject it immediately. They do not entertain excuses. They do not negotiate with their flesh. They do not have lengthy internal debates about whether they should do what they know they should do. They simply do it, not because they feel like it, not because it's convenient, not because anyone is watching, but because they have decided. I want to share with you a final story that captures the essence of what I am communicating. In the early days of aviation, there was a pilot named Douglas Corrigan. In 1938, he filed a flight plan to fly from New York to California. The aviation authorities approved his plan. Corrigan took off from Floyd Bennett Field in Brooklyn. He headed west as his flight plan indicated. But once he was airborne, he turned his plane around and flew east across the Atlantic Ocean. 28 hours later, he landed in Dublin, Ireland. When the authorities confronted him, Corrigan claimed his compass had malfunctioned. He said he had accidentally flown the wrong direction. He became famous as Wrong Way Corrigan. But here is what most people don't know. Corrigan had applied multiple times for permission to fly across the Atlantic. He had been denied every single time. The authorities said his plane was too old, too unreliable, too dangerous for such a journey. Corrigan disagreed. He had spent years modifying his plane, ounce by ounce, improvement by improvement. He had disciplined himself as a mechanic until he knew every bolt, every wire, every mechanism of that aircraft. He had prepared himself through countless hours of flight time. When the authorities refused him permission, he took permission. He made a decision. And his discipline backed up his decision. He could have accepted the expert opinion. He could have been reasonable. He could have concluded that if the authorities said it couldn't be done, it couldn't be done. But Corrigan was dangerously disciplined. He had prepared so thoroughly, trained so diligently, focused so completely that he trusted his discipline more than he trusted the limitations others placed on him. This is what dangerous discipline does. It gives you the confidence to defy the expectations of those who have never prepared as you have prepared. It gives you the authority to reject the limitations of those who have never disciplined themselves as you have disciplined yourself. I want to pause here and address something that many people wrestle with. There is a counterfeit version of discipline that destroys people rather than developing them. I must distinguish between true discipline and toxic perfectionism. True discipline is rooted in purpose. It is driven by vision. It is motivated by the desire to become who you were created to be and to accomplish what you were born to do. Toxic perfectionism is rooted in fear. It is driven by insecurity. It is motivated by the desperate need for approval from others or the terrified avoidance of failure. The dangerously disciplined person works hard because they love their purpose. The perfectionist works hard because they fear rejection. Both may wake up early. Both may sacrifice comfort. Both may produce impressive results. But one is building a legacy while the other is building a prison. You can tell the difference by how you feel when you fall short. The dangerously disciplined person sees failure as feedback. When they do not achieve their goal, they analyze what happened, extract the lesson, make adjustments, and keep moving. Their failure does not define their identity. Their setback does not destroy their confidence. The toxic perfectionist sees failure as condemnation. When they do not achieve their goal, they spiral into shame. They question their worth. They torture themselves with criticism. Their failure becomes evidence of their fundamental inadequacy. I want you to become dangerously disciplined, not dangerously perfectionistic. I want you to pursue excellence without being enslaved by it. I want you to demand the best from yourself without destroying yourself in the process. The human body was not designed for constant stress. The human mind was not built for unrelenting pressure. Even the most disciplined person must rest, must recover, must allow their soul to breathe. Discipline includes the discipline to rest. This is hard for driven people to accept, but it is true. You must be as disciplined about your recovery as you are about your work. You must be as intentional about your rest as you are about your effort. The rhythm of discipline is effort and recovery, engagement and withdrawal, push and release. If you only push, you will break. If you only rest, you will rust. The dangerously disciplined person masters both. Let me speak now about the discipline of environment. You are listening to this because something in you is stirring. Something in you knows that you were created for more than what you are currently experiencing. Something in you is tired of the gap between your potential and your performance. That stirring is not accidental. That dissatisfaction is not meaningless. That restlessness is a signal. It is the signal that you are ready to make a decision, ready to kill your alternatives, ready to become someone that mediocrity cannot coexist with, ready to become so focused, so driven, so committed that distraction looks at you and decides to find an easier target. But readiness is not enough. You must act. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you finish this project or that project, not when the conditions are perfect. Now, today, this moment, the most powerful words in any language are, I will. Not I want to, not I hope to, not I plan to, not I should. I will. I will become dangerously disciplined. I will master my body. I will control my thoughts. I will dominate my schedule. I will protect my focus. I will build my legacy. I will fulfill my purpose. I will not die with my potential still inside me. The graveyard is waiting for you. It is patient. It is not in a hurry. It knows that eventually you will arrive. The only question is this: will you arrive empty or full? Will you have poured out everything you were created to give? Or will you still be carrying dreams that never saw daylight, ideas that never took form, gifts that never blessed anyone? The graveyard doesn't care either way. It will receive you regardless. But your children care, your grandchildren care, the people you were born to influence care, the generations that will be affected by whether you lived at full capacity or partial capacity, they care. And somewhere deep inside you, you care. That is why you are still listening. That is why something in you is saying yes to what I am telling you. That is why you cannot dismiss this as just another motivational speech. This is a summons to become what you were created to become. A summons to stop playing games with your one and only life. A summons to become dangerously disciplined. Discipline is the bridge. On one side of the bridge is where you are now, your current reality, your present circumstances, your existing results. On the other side of the bridge is your destiny, your purpose, your potential fully expressed, your legacy established. Discipline is the bridge that connects these two places. And here is what I need you to understand. No one can walk that bridge for you. I can tell you about the bridge. I can describe the bridge. I can encourage you to cross the bridge, but I cannot carry you across. Your mother cannot cross for you. Your father cannot cross for you. Your spouse cannot cross for you. Your friends cannot cross for you. This is your journey. And every step across that bridge is a step of discipline. Every step says, I will sacrifice today's comfort for tomorrow's destiny. Every step says, I will choose focus over distraction. Every step says, I will embrace the pain of discipline rather than the pain of regret. The bridge is waiting. It has always been waiting. It was built the moment you were conceived with purpose. The only question is whether you will cross it. I believe you will. I believe that something has shifted in you during this time. I believe that a decision has been forming in your spirit. I believe that this is not just an emotional moment that will fade by tomorrow. I believe you are ready to become dangerously disciplined. And when you do, when you cross that bridge, when you fully become who you were created to be, You will look back at this moment. You will remember the day when you stopped dreaming and started deciding. The day when you stopped wishing and started working. The day when you stopped accepting and started attacking. The day when you became dangerous. Dangerous to mediocrity. Dangerous to distraction. Dangerous to every limitation that has held you back. The graveyard will not get your potential. The graveyard will not receive your unused gifts. The graveyard will not be enriched by your buried dreams. You will die empty, gloriously, magnificently, beautifully empty, because you will have poured out everything you were created to give. This is your destiny. This is your purpose. This is your calling. Now go become dangerously disciplined and watch what happens when a single-minded, focused, unstoppable person decides that nothing will stand between them and their purpose. The world has no answer for such a person. The world can only step aside and watch in wonder. That person is you. Now become who you were born to be. But before I release you, I must say something more, because what I have told you will be tested. Every principle I have shared with you will be challenged before the sun sets on this day. You see, the moment you decide to become dangerously disciplined, you activate resistance. I want you to understand this reality so that you are not surprised when it happens. There are forces in this universe that are comfortable with your mediocrity. There are systems that benefit from your distraction. There are patterns that have invested in your failure. And the moment you threaten those patterns, they will push back. This resistance will come in many forms. It will come as doubt. That voice in your mind that says, who do you think you are? You've never been disciplined before. What makes you think you can change now? That voice will be loud. It will be persistent. It will know your history, your failures, your weaknesses, and it will use every one of them against you. It will come as distraction. The moment you sit down to work on your purpose, your phone will ring. Someone will need you urgently. An opportunity will appear that looks good but leads nowhere. Entertainment will call. Comfort will whisper. And every distraction will have a reasonable face. It will come as people. Friends who were comfortable with the old you will feel threatened by the new you. Family members who were content with your mediocrity will criticize your ambition. Colleagues who were happy to be ahead of you will sabotage your progress. Some of this will be intentional. Much of it will be unconscious, but all of it will be real. It will come as circumstances. The economy will shift. Your health will be challenged. Problems will multiply. And every circumstance will seem to say, this is not the right time. Wait for a better season. Be reasonable. I need you to understand, this resistance is not a sign that you should stop. This resistance is evidence that you are on the right path. Nothing worth achieving has ever been achieved without opposition. Nothing valuable has ever been built without battle. Nothing significant has ever been accomplished without struggle. The resistance is not your enemy. The resistance is your training ground. Every time you push through doubt, you build confidence. Every time you reject distraction, you strengthen focus. Every time you outlast opposition, you develop endurance. The resistance is making you dangerous. I must also speak to you about the relationship between discipline and time. Time is the currency of destiny. You can lose money and make it back. You can lose a relationship and build a new one. You can lose opportunities and create others. But you cannot lose time and recover it. Every second that passes is gone forever. Every minute that ticks away has departed into eternity. Every hour that you waste is an hour that will never return to your hand. This is why the dangerously disciplined person treats time differently than the average person. The average person kills time. They look for ways to make time pass. They scroll through social media for hours. They watch television programs they don't even enjoy. They engage in conversations that lead nowhere. They participate in activities that produce nothing, and they call this relaxation. But the dangerously disciplined person invests time. They see every hour as an opportunity to move closer to their destiny. They guard their calendar like a soldier guards a fortress. They say no to good things so they can say yes to great things. The dangerously disciplined person understands that time is not renewable. You cannot recycle yesterday. You cannot borrow from tomorrow. You only have today. You only have this moment. You only have now. And what you do with now determines what happens to your forever. I have met wealthy people who would give every penny they have for one more year of life. I have sat with dying people who would trade everything they accumulated for one more month with their families. I have witnessed the tears of those who realized too late that they had traded their time for things that didn't matter. Do not let that be your story. Your time is your life measured in moments. When you waste time, you are wasting your life. When you kill time, you are killing your destiny. But when you discipline your time, you multiply your life. When you invest your time in purposeful activity, you build a legacy that time itself cannot destroy. I want to give you something practical now, because principle without practice is philosophy, and philosophy alone has never changed anyone's life. Here is what the dangerously disciplined person does every single day. They wake before the world wakes, not because early rising is magical, but because the early morning hours are uncontested. No one calls you at 5 a.m. No one demands your attention before sunrise. The world is quiet, and in that quiet, you can think, you can plan, you can prepare, you can develop. When you wake while others sleep, you gain hours that they do not have. Over a year, those hours become weeks. Over a decade, those hours become months. Over a lifetime, you will have lived longer than everyone around you because you will have been awake while they were dormant. The dangerously disciplined person also ends their day with intention. Before they sleep, they review. They ask themselves, did I move closer to my purpose today? Did I discipline my time? Did I protect my focus? Did I take ground or lose ground? This review is not about guilt. This is about growth. The unexamined life is not worth living, and the unexamined day is a lost day. When you review, you learn. When you learn, you adjust. When you adjust, you improve. The dangerously disciplined person also masters their environment. They do not leave their success to chance. They control what they can control. They remove distractions from their space. If the phone is a distraction, the phone goes in another room. If television is a distraction, the television is removed. If certain people are distractions, those people see less of you. This is not cruelty. This is wisdom. You cannot blame your failure on distractions that you have the power to eliminate. You cannot complain about interruptions that you have the authority to prevent. Take responsibility for your environment. Design it for discipline. Arrange it for achievement. Engineer it for excellence. I must also speak about the relationship between discipline and relationships. Some of you will struggle with discipline because you have relational debt. You owe emotional attention to people who deposit very little into your life. You spend hours with people who add nothing to your purpose. You invest energy in relationships that drain you rather than develop you. The dangerously disciplined person conducts a relationship audit. They look at every significant relationship in their life and ask honest questions. Does this relationship move me toward my purpose, or away from it? Does this person inspire me to be better or encourage me to settle? Do I become stronger in their presence or weaker? This is not about cutting off everyone who doesn't perfectly align with your vision. That would leave you isolated and arrogant. This is about being intentional with your relational investment. Some relationships deserve your prime time. These are the people who speak into your destiny, who challenge your thinking, who refuse to let you stay comfortable. Give them your best energy. Schedule time with them. Guard those appointments. Some relationships deserve your secondary time. These are the people who are pleasant but not progressive. They don't hurt your destiny, but they don't help it either. Be kind to them, but do not let them consume your calendar. Some relationships need to be released. These are the people who consistently pull you backward. They criticize your ambition. They celebrate your failures. They need you to stay small so they can feel adequate. Love them from a distance, but protect your purpose from their influence. This is not easy. It is especially difficult in cultures that value community and connection. But you must understand something. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If those 5 people are undisciplined, you'll become undisciplined. If those 5 people are mediocre, you'll become mediocre. Show me your friends, and I will show you your future. Now, I must speak about a difficult topic. I must speak about the discipline of delayed gratification. We live in an age of instant everything. Instant information, instant communication, instant entertainment, instant food. The entire world has been organized to minimize waiting. And this instant culture is destroying our capacity for greatness. Because greatness is never instant. Excellence is never immediate. Mastery is never microwaved. Everything worth having requires time. A great marriage takes years to build. A successful business takes years to establish. A healthy body takes months to develop. A valuable skill takes years to master. But the undisciplined person cannot wait. They want results now. They want rewards immediately. They want the harvest without the planting, the destination without the journey, the prize without the process. And so they fail, not because they lack ability, but because they lack patience. The dangerously disciplined person has mastered the art of delayed gratification. They can say no to immediate pleasure for the sake of future fulfillment. They can sacrifice present comfort for permanent contribution. There was an experiment conducted with children many years ago. A researcher placed a marshmallow in front of each child and gave them a choice. They could eat the marshmallow immediately, or they could wait 15 minutes and receive 2 marshmallows. The researchers then followed these children for years, even decades, and what they discovered was remarkable. The children who could delay gratification, who could wait for the second marshmallow, performed better academically, had healthier relationships, earned more money, and reported greater life satisfaction. One decision, wait or don't wait, and that decision predicted outcomes decades later. This is the power of delayed gratification. The ability to say, I will not sacrifice tomorrow's destiny for today's desire. The dangerously disciplined person develops this ability. They train themselves to wait. They build their capacity for patience. They resist the tyranny of the immediate. And while the undisciplined person consumes their seed, the disciplined person plants their seed. And one day, when the harvest comes, everyone will see the difference. I want to address something that many people carry secretly. I want to address the discipline of the mind. Your external world is a reflection of your internal world. What you think eventually becomes what you say. What you say eventually becomes what you do. What you do eventually becomes who you are. If you want to change your life, you must start by changing your mind. But the mind is the most difficult territory to discipline. It is easier to control your body than to control your thoughts. It is easier to manage your environment than to manage your inner dialogue. The undisciplined mind is like a wild garden. Weeds grow without invitation. Negative thoughts plant themselves without permission. Fear, doubt, criticism, and complaint multiply freely because no one is tending the soil. But the dangerously disciplined person takes responsibility for their mental garden. They pull weeds daily. They plant seeds of purpose. They cultivate thoughts that serve their destiny. This is not about positive thinking as the world understands it. I am not talking about ignoring reality and pretending everything is wonderful. That is delusion, not discipline. I am talking about intentional thinking, choosing what thoughts you will entertain, deciding what inner voices you will listen to, determining which mental pathways you will strengthen and which you will starve. When a negative thought enters your mind, and it will enter, you cannot prevent thoughts from appearing. You have a choice. You can welcome that thought, give it a seat, offer it a meal, and invite it to stay permanently. Or you can recognize it, reject it, and replace it. This is mental discipline. The ability to take every thought captive. The power to think on purpose rather than by accident. And this discipline must be exercised daily. The mind is like a muscle. If you do not use it correctly, it will use you incorrectly. If you do not direct it toward purpose, it will default toward problems. Every morning, feed your mind with content that builds you. Read, listen, study, learn. Do not begin your day with news of tragedy and fear. Do not start your morning with negativity and complaint. Fill your mind with substance that strengthens your purpose. Every evening, God what enters your mind before sleep. The last things you think about will work in you while you rest. Do not fall asleep to images of violence or words of fear. Rest with thoughts that restore. Control the input, and you will eventually control the output. I know this may surprise you. Discipline is an act of love. When you discipline yourself, you are loving your future self. You are making sacrifices now so that the person you will become can live a better life. When you discipline yourself, you are loving your family. You are building something that will bless them long after you are gone. You are breaking patterns that have held your lineage captive for generations. When you discipline yourself, you are loving your community. You are becoming someone who can contribute rather than just consume. You are developing capacity to serve rather than just survive. When you discipline yourself, you are loving your purpose. You are honoring the reason you were born. You are respecting the gifts you were given. Discipline is not self-abuse. Discipline is self-love rightly understood. It is loving yourself enough to demand more from yourself. It is caring for yourself enough to refuse to settle. The person who never disciplines themselves does not love themselves. They may pamper themselves. They may comfort themselves. They may indulge themselves, but they do not love themselves. Love demands growth. Love requires development. Love insists on becoming. When you become dangerously disciplined, you are making the ultimate statement of self-love. You are declaring that you are worth the effort. You are announcing that your destiny is worth the sacrifice. You are proclaiming that your future is worth the fight. I am drawing to a close, but I must leave you with this final thought. Your discipline will create a legacy. Long after you are gone, the effects of your discipline will continue. Children who have not yet been born will benefit from the foundation you are building now. Communities that do not yet exist will be shaped by the standards you establish today. The disciplined person thinks generationally. They do not just think about next week or next year. They think about what their great-grandchildren will inherit because of decisions made today. When you become dangerously disciplined, you step out of the current of mediocrity that has defined so many generations. You become a new beginning. You become the ancestor that future generations will point to and say, that is where things changed. That is when our family shifted. That is who broke the pattern. This is not small. This is not insignificant. This is perhaps the greatest contribution you will ever make. You are not just changing your life, you are changing the lives of people who will carry your name and your legacy for centuries. Let that weight settle on you. Let the magnitude of what is at stake become real to you. The graveyard is patient, but your descendants are waiting. Your legacy is calling. Your purpose is demanding. Rise. Become who you were created to become. Become dangerously disciplined and watch as everything changes, not just for you, for everyone connected to you, for everyone who will ever be connected to you, for generations yet unborn. This is your moment. This is your decision. This is your time. Now go and become dangerous